Welcome back to Marthoma Effect, Word on the Street series. I'm your host, Annmaria and we welcome back Nikki onto our show to, we were talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and how that was really influencing our life, changing the way we live. So just bringing back to our last episode, we were talking about challenges. So can you actually tell me a bit more about what your biggest challenge was?
Yeah, so one of my biggest challenge during the pandemic was seeing people suffer financially, mentally, physically, and not just within Australia, all around the world, but also family back home in India. And so there was a lot of sentiments at that time surfacing that the pandemic or the consequences of the pandemic is a result of God's punishment. And it was quite bewildering to me because a lot of the people that I saw that were suffering were good people.
Yeah.
And it sort of reflected what happened in the book of Job, because like Job, I was like, what's going on? I was like asking God, I was praying, I was writing, I was like, why are you letting all this happen? But then I actually watched this video on YouTube by a channel called Spoken Gospel, and they did a phenomenal job of showing how a lot of the times we ask these questions to God about suffering, but the answers that we get, even if God provided it to us, it's something that's out of something that we cannot comprehend. It's sort of cosmic answers. And so being in a pandemic and sort of being confined in the four walls of your home, I did feel a bit helpless and trapped because I wanted to do something, I wanted to help, but I can't. The best way was to stay at home and socially distance and isolate. So that would probably be the biggest challenge that I faced during the pandemic. Feeling sort of helpless.
And did that, maybe make you reach out in different ways or through different forms, like through prayer, spending that time with God? Because I know even for me, like you tend to easily put the blame on someone and go, God, why this? Like, why me? Why the people who are good, like they don't deserve this. So how did you kind of, get through that challenge, I guess? Like how?
Yeah, look, I think like my relationship with God during the pandemic was, like I said, like it was fluctuating. Like there were times when I was super close with him. I was reading the Bible every day. I was praying. And then there were other times where I was, I just felt really disconnected to him. But I think what helped me sort of be like, no, whatever I do, I can just always turn back to him. It was actually kind of reading the Bible and realizing that some of the people in the Bible that we read, for example, let's take Abraham. He's considered the father of our faith, but that man has faltered in his faith and in his courage in God many times. He he lied about Sarah, saying that it's his sister to first to the Pharaoh and then the second time to a Philistine king, Abimelech, and he twice he's done that. And then even more recent example is if you take, I actually had this conversation with one of my friends recently, and I was like, well, I didn't think of it like that. But if you take Peter and Judas, both were disciples of Christ, both betrayed Jesus. Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 silver coins, and then Peter denied Jesus three times. So both have messed up big time. But one became a saint, the other didn't. And why? It was because Peter changed his life around to glorify God. And so that sort of made me realize, like, even if I step away from God, no matter how many times I do it, no matter how many times I mess up and how big it is, I can always turn back to him, and he's always there waiting for me. So I think reading the Bible at the time was really helpful. And then following on to that, I'm a person who loves like film and media, like music is a big part, but also film and books and things like that. And there's a show called The Chosen. If you guys haven't watched it, please do. It's amazing. There's a show called Chosen, and there's actually a short film on so Chosen actually shows the humanity of Jesus, and there's also this other short film that I saw on YouTube called The Christ Child, and in that one it shows the humanity of the Holy Family. And so these Christian media platforms, what they did for me was that they made Jesus and the people of his time a bit more relatable. And so every time when I sat down to pray, I was like, I'm talking to someone, or I'm talking to Jesus who was a human, and he totally understands what I am going through now, because he's gone through it as well. So that was another thing that sort of helped me get
Go
through
through
that
it,
struggle.
So you kind of, I think it was kind of expected that everyone was going to go through that wilderness stage, because I thought, even for me, that, you know, you always, once you have a relationship with God, that's it. Like, it's going to be amazing, but it's like a constant. You're always working on, you know, strengthening that relationship, and you always, it'll be maybe when you're, you know, stuck at home that you're tested the most. And it's so, you might think, oh, when you're exposed to the outside world and like the secular livings of, you know, of our times today, that we might be getting challenged, but it could be literally when you're home, when you're by yourself, where the devil plays. And it just, it's cool, because everyone has their own, you know, ways of connecting with God, and we can see, you know, that you were able to do that as well, which is really good. And I guess now we went through the pandemic. It's so crazy and amazing to see how good Australia's gotten. You know, now no need for masks really, unless we can't socially distance and stuff like that. And we're kind of in that, you know, comeback stage. So like, what are you most looking forward to now? Like, are you excited to see your friends? Like, you know, bringing the youth back together. There's like the dance challenges that are happening. You know, what are you most excited for now?
Yeah, no, I remember the first time I walked back into church, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's church. it was so good. Like I felt I was coming home. Yeah. As cliche as it sounds. But yeah, it was really nice. And just to sing, like I said before, like just to sing Annmaria with everyone. Yeah. The songs was just really, really nice. And then, of course, seeing everyone's faces. I mean, almost
you can see their eyes.
Yeah, their eyes. Yeah, and seeing everyone's faces. I mean, a lot of people's Charlie haven't improved, including mine.
Practicing it during a lockdown.
A Google search. But no, it was just really good to be back.
Yeah.
And I'm just praying that we can
stay back.
Stay back, yeah.
Yeah, like I know, you know, when I started coming back, I remember there was a time where the number of people who come to church were very few, but when we could go, it just made me really appreciate, like, wow, like it's so amazing. I know, like, oh my God, I've been here for 19 years and I've never really understood, you know, the meaning of going to church. And you were talking about, you know, before ritual, like it used to be a ritual, but now it's like, you know, take this as like, you know, you're lucky. There's so many people in the world, you know, in other countries, they have to go to church in secret. Like they, you know, they can't profess their faith, but we can. And, you know, make the most of, you know, what we have, and, you know, spread the word of Christ through what we do and through our ministry. So for you, music, through dance or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really amazing. And
I think also, like, what's quite interesting is that in our Syro-Malabar Mass, the very last prayer that we say, it reflects sort of what happened in the pandemic. We never know when we can go back into church again. So every moment that you're in church, or when you're, you know, participating in the Mass, it's like, I need to appreciate this moment.
Because you never know.
You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Guess we never know. So I guess you kind of summarized it, but in like one short summary, what do you think the pandemic, like, what's one thing you've learned?
Oh, one thing. Okay, so the one thing is, I think, just to be grateful. I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned during the pandemic. It's just to, like, obviously, like you said, like Australia dealt with the pandemic very well compared to a lot of other nations. And so that, as well as I'm very grateful for the family that I have, and, you know, my friends, and grateful to be, I mean, just be grateful every moment. You never know what your next second in your life is going to be like. Every breath you take, it's always a blessing, and just be grateful for that. And that's the biggest blessing. This is the pandemic has taught me.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much for coming to our podcast today. It's been really amazing just, you know, hearing you talk and just, you know, share your own experiences. And, you know, it's good to see that, you know, there were challenges, but how you were able to, you know, overcome that. So yeah, thank you so much. So that's all from us today. Stay tuned. We'll be having many more episodes with many more faces. So until then, I'm Annmaria Jimmy.
And this is Nikki.
And this is Marthoma Effect.